So, some significant developments in the Ukraine crisis. What happens next? Will a ceasefire between Kiev and the rebels hold? To discuss this further, I'm now joined by Ambassador William Taylor. He is a former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome back to the show. First, I want to get your reaction to this ceasefire. Are you optimistic that it can hold? Is this a positive step in the right direction?
This is clearly a positive step in the right direction. It is a positive step because the Ukrainian soldiers and Russian soldiers will not be killing each other. And so Ukrainian mothers and Russian mothers will not have to see more of their sons coming back dead from this war zone. And make no mistake, the Russian military has been fighting in Ukraine. So this will be a good thing. The other good thing about this, the reason I'm somewhat optimistic, is Mr. Putin has now demonstrated that he has control over the separatists in the southeastern part of Ukraine. And he has been working with President Poroshenko on this deal. And this deal is based clearly on President Poroshenko's draft.
So it seems that they can work together, but there are still more sanctions on the table for Russia, as U.S. President Barack Obama mentioned or alluded to during this NATO summit that ended. If Russia and Ukraine can work on its own, do you at some point see those sanctions being removed?
If the ceasefire holds, and if the Russian troops and the Russian military pulls out of Ukraine, and if the Russians take control of the border between Ukraine and Russia, they're on the Russian side, thus stopping the flow of the Russian support coming into the separatists from Russia, if those things hold, then yes, I think there is a good chance that this can work. This will allow the government in Kiev to take responsibility, take control, assert its authority over all of Ukraine, and begin to do the things that President Poroshenko has suggested, that is, devolve some of the responsibilities for governing local taxes, local infrastructure, local language policy to local governments. So I think this is clearly a step in the right direction.
How long do you see all of this taking? Because take the violence in the military and the ceasefire out of it, Ukraine still has a lot of problems within its own country that it has to work through. The economy, for one. How do you see this all playing out? How long can this take?
This will take months, this will take years to address the problems that you talk about, Elaine. That is, Ukraine has enormous economic problems. It now has enormous rebuilding problems in Donetsk and Luhansk. It has constitutional problems that we just talked about, constitutional changes that need to be made. The reforms in their governance and the reforms in particular in anti-corruption steps that they have to take, those are all very important for them to begin to address the economic crisis. But the withdrawal of Russian troops from southeastern Ukraine will make it possible for them to start that long process.
Are you confident the new current government in Ukraine and President Poroshenko can handle all of it? Is he up to the task?
I think he's definitely up to the task, but I think it's also incumbent on the United States and the Europeans and others in the international community to help him do that. He's going to need incredible financial support. He's going to need technical support on the reforms that I talked about. So he's up to it. His government, I believe, will be up to it. He's got elections coming up, and the new elections will give him a parliament that will be able to work with him. The old parliament has been supportive, but it's made up of people from the old government. But this will be a new parliament elected to work with President Poroshenko. He's up to it, but the international community really needs to step up and help him.
Poroshenko was at this NATO summit in Wales, and again, coming out of it, there was this thought, this open invitation, it sounded like, to open NATO up to other nations. Is that an invitation for Ukraine to perhaps join at some point?
I think so. In 2008, when Ukraine had applied for membership, NATO declined that application, but in that statement in 2008, NATO said Ukraine and Georgia, by the way, will become members of NATO. They didn't say when, and I believe this summit that just ended also left the door open. But I should say that this is a decision that the Ukrainians are going to have to make. This is a decision President Poroshenko, his government, and most importantly, the people of Ukraine will have to decide how they can ensure their own security. NATO is one way, but they have to decide.
All right, Ambassador William Taylor, as always, we appreciate your insight on Ukraine. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Elaine.